A job used to mean stability. That was synonymous. But for now, for much of America, a job increasingly just means yet another gig. And so after about an hour of conversation, I asked a question that a lot of people frankly, in rooms like this one, in New York and Washington and San Francisco, ask me. A lot of people assume that modest amounts of cash won't make that much of a real dent in the lives of a lot of working people. So I posed a question to the group. What difference would an extra $100 a month make in your lives? And it had been a pretty affable conversation up until that point. People were pretty relaxed. We'd all sort of gotten to know each other. After I asked that question, stone silent. Nobody said a word. Until one woman, an African-American woman in her late 30s, looked up and she locked eyes with me and she said, "Frankly, anybody who's asking that question has never had to choose at the end of the month between making rent and buying groceries." I have a message for all of the futurists out there. The future is already here, and jobs have come apart in America. We all know some of the stats, but it's worthwhile just to take 3 or 4 key ones as a whole, because I think they paint the picture. In the past decade, according to Princeton economists, all of the jobs, 94% of all of the jobs that have been created have been part-time, contract, or temporary. 0.1% of Americans, not the top 1%, 0.1% of Americans now own as much wealth as the bottom 90% combined. Median wages have not meaningfully budged in 40 years, and income inequality hasn't been this bad since the year 1929, which history buffs in the crowd will remember as the year that the Great Depression began. The guaranteed income would allow people to chase their own dreams on their own terms. It would respect the fundamental dignity that every citizen in America has and provide them with a little bit more freedom to figure out what they want and who they want to be. This idea has been written about by philosophers and political organizers going back centuries to Thomas Paine, Martin Luther King Jr., and many others. But in this moment, I think it was critical. I think it's impossible to overstate the auspiciousness of the moment that we live in and the importance that there is that we owe it to one another to think big. We cannot let the defensive crouch in our current politics prevent us from imagining and working toward a more stable and economically just future.